Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of An RN's Life. This is Deanna. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you, everyone that's been commenting, subscribing. Welcome, new subscribers. I'm so happy that you guys are coming along for this ride. Since I'm a new YouTuber, we getting there slowly, guys. One thing at a time. Let's get to 500 first and then 1,000. All right, let's kick it off. You see the thumbnail. The psychology of women, the teenage years. Ah, the worst years of a woman's life. Lord Jesus, this is the worst. Okay, let's talk about the girls from 13 to 17. Usually around this time for women, this also is a very crucial time in a woman's life. It's childhood is important, but teenage years, this is what really gives us our issues. Um Teenage girls at between 13 and 17, we're going to start on the low end. They're just starting to, at 13, you're just starting, to be older. You're coming out of, being a smaller child. You're in your teenage years. And a lot of times when girls get to that 13-year-old age, they think that they're grown. That's the age where young teenage girls want more independence. They want to be challenging. They want to, start the rebellion. All of those things. I have a suggestion because I did this with my daughter and it worked wonders. I meant to put this in the psychology of women part one because that's where you're really supposed to do it. When your daughters are about when they start school and they start writing, when they start writing sentences and things like that. So somewhere around probably second, third grade when they're writing paragraphs, sentences, that is the time that you want to start buying your daughter's diaries. You want to introduce a diary to them, buy the prettiest diary you can find, or whatever they're interested in at that time. If they're interested in anime or whatever, then find an anime diary. But start them on diaries young and encourage the diaries. Keep them coming. When I say encourage them, encourage your daughters to write in them. Encourage them to write their thoughts, what they did that day. Tell them what the diary is for. Have them in the habit of writing in a diary. And I'm going to tell you why. The reason being, if you start your daughters off young writing in a diary, when they're a teenager, you can read it to find out what the hell's going on in their life because I did it with my daughter. And my daughter don't know to this day I read her diaries. She doesn't listen to my YouTube videos. Maybe one day she will. And by that time, I'll probably be off this earth because she really doesn't. She's not into social media like that. She's really not into it. And she looks at YouTube, but she doesn't look at my stuff. But I did that with my daughter. I knew exactly what she was doing. So whenever I was off from work and she was in school, I would read the diary to see what she was planning. And she couldn't understand for the life of her how I was able to find out, like have her send her to her grandmother's house or my sister's house when she was about to do something she had no business doing. And that's because I read it in the diary. So I'm just telling you guys this as parents. You teach them about the diary, tell them it's their own personal thoughts. Nobody's going to read it. And even though we're lying to them as parents, it's a good tool because it helps you save your child without your child even knowing. So that way, when something's about to happen, you can kind of throw a monkey wrench in it before it happens without tipping off about their plans. Because once they find out, that they're reading your diary, you're reading their diary, they're going to stop writing in them. So my daughter is almost 30 years old now, and she doesn't know to this day that I read her diaries. And she still writes it. She writes in journals now. I don't read her journals, of course. I haven't read her journals since I haven't read her diaries or any of her journals since she was really since she was 17. I kind of stopped around then because by the time the girls get to 18, they kind of mellow out a little bit because they're getting ready for adulthood, for college, whatever they plan to do, entrepreneur, working, whatever, they kind of, calm down a little bit. But for the most part, I'm just giving you that little tidbit of information early to get your girls when they're young a diary. Believe me, it's going to save you a lot of headache because I got a lot of information out of my daughter's diaries. I stopped a lot of stuff. It was parties she was going to go to, there was going to be alcohol, it was all kinds of stuff. So that's why I said, because you don't know what's going on with your teen girls. Also, while I'm saying this, it is going to be a part 2A. I have to do a part 2A, and I don't think that's going to be a trigger warning. I'll see, but I do have to do a 2A on teen girls because there is another side to this. So let me get back to this. This is a very crucial time for girls. This is a time when girls want to, for those girls that want to experiment with makeup, they try to find their own identity. They try to find their own style as far as clothes. Their peers are the most important things to them. I mean, friends to them, excuse me, people to them. Their peers are the most important people to them during this time in their life. Parents, you are not important. You are only good for money and food and shelter during this time. These kids, they at this age, everything is about their friends and social media. I'm not going to dive too deep into social media on this one. I'm going to dive into it on 2A because I have something else. It all ties in together in 2A. Also, with teenage girls, self esteem is the most important here. It is very, extremely important for girls to dress and look a certain way while going to school because peer opinion is the only thing that matters during this time, especially for girls. Boys, I'm not saying boys don't go through it. Girls, of course, because they're more sensitive and emotional, this is a bad time for them. You got to remember, teenage girls, they're new to having their cycles. Their hormones are all over the place. It's an awkward time for them. They're feeling insecure about everything. So, this is a bad time for girls. This is a bad time for parents with girls. And this is a bad time for for girls, period, when it comes to parents. Because everything about teenage girls is upsetting. If one hair is out of place, they're crying. This is a very traumatic time. This is also a very important time for a girl to have a father. And the reason why I say that is because this is the time that girls are really into boys. And if girls do not have a loving and doting father, these girls are going to really be under these boys and attach themselves and don't want to let go. So that that's usually when this happens. Like now, usually you get your first little boyfriend in your teenage years and experience what you think is real love at that age. And for girls, if they're not dating or if the boys don't find them interesting, that can be very traumatic for a teenage girl. Teenage girls usually they will look at themselves and think that there's something wrong with them. And in many cases, it's not. It's just all a part of just growing pains, basically. Of course, if during a teenage girl's life, if you're not the aesthetically pleasing looking one, like if you're not at the top of the food chain when it comes to looks in your culture or group or community, then you have to try to fit in other ways, whether you dress well or wait, or whether you're a good athlete, or whether you have a talent of some sort, or maybe you just have a great personality, or or maybe your family has money, anything that will give you an advantage over your peers where you're not teased. Because being teased in high school is these kids feel like death. They feel like they're dying. And that's why the unalive rates for this age group has grown over the years, and it's grown even more dramatically, especially with the invention of social media. This has made things worse for teenage girls. Teenage girls also, let me go back to when there's not a father in the home, because that is extremely important. Even if there's not a father, there needs to be a strong male role model for girls. Because if there isn't a strong male role model that pours into a young girl, there's going to be a lot of issues with that girl. Because, as I said in my psychology of women, I don't know if I think I did say it in part one. I'm not sure. I know I said it somewhere in one of these psychology somewhere. Um, that we were put here for the male gaze, and that women compete for men, and we're naturally submissive to men. And when I say that, what I'm saying is that teenage girls, when they, go out here, when they get the ninth grade or whatever, and if they are attracted to boys, because again, I don't want to just say exclusively boys. I know there are some girls that, like girls. So, but for the purpose of this video, I'm going to stick to boys and girls. It's nothing, it's no offense to the LGBTQ. I don't know all the letters and stuff, but just for the purpose of this video. Um, I'm going to use those terms. So, so for girls, getting male attention is extremely important during this time, because girls have to know that they're attractive. Girls need to hear that they're pretty. Now, the girls that need to hear that they're pretty are the ones that don't hear it all the time. Now, when you have the girls that have pretty privilege, they hear it all the time. So it means nothing to them. They don't have to hear it every day, because they hear it, they've heard it ever since they was born. So for them, it's not a big deal, because they're going to hear that they're pretty before the week is out. Sometime during the course of the week, somebody going to say that they're pretty, on some level. But most teenage girls at some point want to hear a boy, their peer, like want to hear, oh, you're pretty, or I like you, or something like that, because that's what we're here for, whether we realize it or not. This is something that is the norm. It's expected. It's normal human behavior. When you get a certain age and the hormones start coming in, you naturally start being attracted to the opposite sex, unless you are attracted to the same sex. But again, I'm gonna swing back for the purpose of this video. Um, that's usually when these things occur. So when a girl does not get that male attention, or that male, or she doesn't feel as though she's attractive enough for the male attention, that's when some other behaviors start to emerge, because young girls want that attention. They crave it. I've seen it. I've seen it way too many times. And when I get into 2A, I will go into that. But girls at this time, they need a strong family foundation. In all actuality, girls need to be in extracurricular activities, and that's any child. But right now, we're talking about girls. Girls need to be in extracurricular activities, because it helps fills their time, and that helps with some of the behaviors that can occur when a young girl is not getting enough male attention. Because because you'll get male attention. Girls usually get some sort of male attention, but it's not the attention that they want. So, most teenage girls and ladies, if you think back when you were in high school, when you were a teenager, how did you feel? I would like for women to start commenting on these videos, because it's important to have some type of dialogue, and let's talk back and forth, because how are we to help the next generation of women if we don't, leave this information for them, for these younger girls, because this is something that goes on from generation to generation. Life is the same for each generation. The only thing that's different is that, of course, we have different music, clothes, things that are that go along with our time. So we're in an age now where we're in the social media age. We're getting ready to go into the AI age. So regardless of what type of world we live in, we all experience the same thing when it comes to life and development and growing up in life. We all experience the same thing, just on a different level. We've all been exposed to drugs before. I know, as old as I am, when I was younger, I was approached with drugs many times. I was offered drugs in my 20s, in my teens. Even when I was 10, I was offered, alcohol and, drugs. So, this is not something that's just started, today with this generation. What it is that each generation takes something that we've been through and they magnify it times 10 sometimes. Because when I was coming up, the only drug that I knew of at that particular time that my peer group was doing was weed. All this other stuff that's going on with these other substances, they weren't around. But I'm not saying they weren't around. They weren't, going around the youth like that. The only thing that was going around the youth and when I was, younger, 13, 14, was weed. There was nothing else I was offered during that time besides alcohol. I was offered alcohol, but other than that, and I didn't touch the weed. The alcohol I did when I was 13. I got drunk off of Reuniti when I was 13, when I was on a train with some friends going back to boarding school. I was in a boarding school for ninth grade, and I was the youngest. I was 13 in the ninth grade because I graduated when I was 17. And I was the youngest, so they gave me some Reuniti, some warm Reuniti on a train back to boarding school. And they had to get me off the train. I was drunk, and they tried to hide me and get me in my dorm room. But the house mother wound up finding out, and they wound up actually taking me to the hospital. And I was fine, but I was just, passed out from drinking the Reuniti. I was 13 and I didn't have anything to eat or whatever. So, but and I did that because of peer pressure. With the, I'm the youngest one. I'm with the 15, 16, 17 year olds. I'm the youngest, so they give it to me. So I'm drinking it with everybody else just to be along with the crowd. So this is what teenagers do. Teenage girls do. I did it. I mean, I didn't smoke weed though, but I drank the Reuniti. So it's like I did succumb to some sort of peer pressure. So that's why I said these are the years that girls will succumb to peer pressure. These are also the years that it's important for a girl to have some sort of male attention in order for her to feel like she's attractive. Because your parents can tell you you're pretty all the time, it doesn't mean anything. It only means anything when it comes from that boy at school that you like. Once that boy at school that you like tells you that you pretty, then you know you pretty. You don't care when your mother, your dad, and your auntie and your grandma and all them tell you that you're pretty. That doesn't matter. What matters is when Tashawn, with the good hair, told you that you was pretty or you was cute or or whatever. However these kids say it today, I don't know how they be saying it, but that for teenage girls, that's what it is these days, and also for teenage girls, their friend group is the friend group is very important. Excuse me. Their girlfriends are like, they're everything. They take precedence over everything in life. So, the girls are on their phones all the time. It's just being a teenage girl. Let me tell you something. I don't know. I recall raising my daughter, and there was alcohol. There was some light sedatives because listen, whew, I my daughter didn't. My daughter wasn't a bad child. I didn't go through where she spent the night out, and I always knew where my daughter was. I always knew what was going on, but it's just when my daughter started dating and I was, because I told her she couldn't date until she was 16, and then I didn't like it. You got to let your kids grow up, you got to let them do things. So I let her have her first little boyfriend. So that scared me. I had to have the talk with her about birth control. Thank God she didn't use it. FYI, guys, my daughter's first boyfriend is gay. I knew it then, but she didn't know it, and I was so happy because I slept at night because I knew he didn't want her. So I was so happy because they didn't have sex because of the fact that he came out in college. So, she went on a prom with him and everything. That was her boyfriend from 10th to 12th grade. So, for 10th to 12th grade, those 3 years, I slept well at night. Like when she went out with him, I didn't have a care in the world. She asked me could she go to his house, didn't care. One time he came over and he was upstairs in her bedroom, and my son came flying downstairs talking about something. Oh, do you know that he's upstairs in her room? I said, yeah, I'm not worried about it. I said, he don't want her, he want you. And my son said, what? And I said, nothing. And I went in the kitchen because I knew that the boy was gay. I knew it. So, and then once he came out, my daughter came to me. He came out that very next year after she went, they dated for 3 years without him touching her. Never happened. And my because my daughter, I know my daughter was telling the truth because when she did have her first time, she did tell me what happened when it was her first time. So that's why I said she didn't do it with that boy because I knew he was gay and he came out his first year in college. So my daughter wound up doing what doing her thing after high school. Thank God. But the point I'm making, this is the point I'm making the point I'm making is that a teenage girls friend group and dating is the most important thing to teenage girls during that time. Their clothes, their hair, their social life, like everything has to be a certain way. They're very private. You can't go in their room, get out my room. They're in their room a lot. It's just teenage girls. Those teenage years is like the worst. I don't know how I even survived it as far as a mother. My hat is off to any of you ladies who are raising teenage daughters today because I'm going to tell you why. I'm currently doing school nursing because I wanted to take a break from psych nursing for a minute. And I hear these kids. I hear these kids. These kids tell me everything. The school that I'm at, it's an alternative school for kids who've had disciplinary actions, who have some sort of learning issues and stuff like that. So it's a small school that holds 150 kids, but only you lucky if you see 50 kids a day. You lucky because these kids have come to school. But these kids, I've gotten to know quite a few of them because they all come talk to me. And again, like I said, these girls, they come to school and they want attention. I'm telling you what it is. And when I do psychology of women, teenagers 2A, then you'll know what I'm talking about because I'm going to get into that because these kids tell me everything. And when I tell you what they tell me, you're going to be shocked. So after the psychology of women part two, the teenage years, look out for part 2A so that I can let y'all know what y'all teenage daughters are doing in school. Because I got the whole scoop. These parents out here don't know what their kids be doing when they go to school. You think that your kids are going to school just sitting in classrooms. Okay. All right. Like I said, when I do that 2A, that's a video that y'all should be sharing because a lot more parents out here should know what's going on in these schools with these kids because I'm a school nurse in a public school in an inner city school with black and Hispanic children, mostly black and Hispanic. And I'm telling you, when I get to 2A, y'all need to listen to that one because it goes down at the school. Tell you that right now with the children. So if you think your precious little baby is in there sitting in class, looking at the teacher at the front of the class, and she's learning everything, okay. Like I said, you're going to have to pick up on 2A. Now, I'm going to close this out soon because it's getting close to 30 minutes. Another big thing with teenage girls, this is a very critical time also for girls. This is a time when girls contemplate unaliving themselves when they have issues in their peer group, when they're not accepted by their peers, bullied by their peers, things like that. They can have feelings of unaliving themselves because teenage girls, everything is magnified times 10 in their world. And that's because they're learning how to deal with it. Parents are not understanding that teenagers are really navigating and learning how to be like mini adults on some level. We know they're not adults, but they're trying to maneuver and make decisions on their own, and they really don't know what they're doing. They need a lot of guidance. That's why it's important for the diary, because if you can find out what's going on in your daughter's head, then you can help her. Because that's what I did with my daughter. Reading her diaries helped me with her. So my daughter, it helped me. Number one, it helped me get her through high school without pregnancy, without any sort of real problems or drama. I never had to worry about where she was because of the fact I read their diary, and I stopped a lot of things. I read where she wanted to go. She was going to ask me about going to this party, and she was scared to ask me because so and so's mother is not going to be there, and all this kind of stuff. It was all these kind of things. And when it was time, when I thought she was going to ask me about the party, I would tell her she's already going somewhere else before she even mentions it, so that she doesn't even know that I read the diary. So that's what I'm saying. You need to get a diary for your daughters. It's a great idea. You need to start them young. If you know, if they're older and you want to start them now, then start them now. Whatever you need to do, if they'll do it, it's easier when they're younger because they'll be in the habit of doing it. That's why you want to start them when they're young, and then also they'll get used to you not touching the diary, because when they're young, you don't care what they write when they're like 6, 7, 8 years old, because you're in front of their face every day and they're young. You want to know what's going on when they're 13, 14, 15, 16. That's why you're supposed to introduce the diary early, because that way, wherever the kid leaves it, they're like, "Oh, I left it here, I left it there." They know you didn't touch it, so that's what it is. They have to build up that trust that you're not going to touch it. So that's why you get it early, because you're not going to touch it when they're young. You want to know what's going on when they're 13. That's what it is, 12, 13, like that. So again, I'm going to close this out because I'm going to go to 2A, because 2A is going to be the meat and potatoes. I was just basically giving you the basics of teenage life for teenage girls, that this is the most crucial part in a woman's life, because this is where the self-esteem really hits home. Because during this time, this is how during the teenage years, this is how women feel about themselves moving forward. Because once they get out of high school and they get into adulthood, that's when they start making changes or doing different things or trying to be the person that they really want to be, based on how they were treated in high school. If you had great high school years, you probably went off and just, did whatever and enjoyed yourself. But if you had bad high school years, that means you came into adulthood and tried to fix everything. That's why you have people that act the way that they do in relationships, because when they were in high school, either they didn't have relationships, they had toxic relationships, or for some people, they've had relationships and they know how to act. Other people don't. And also, when people are in relationships that treat certain individuals badly because of how they were treated. For example, you hear a lot of black men saying they only want to date white women because black women treated them bad. They're basing that off of our high school experiences. You have to live life. Just a couple experiences doesn't determine your whole life. But see, in the teenage years, that's what happens. So that's why teenage years are so crucial, because these are the self esteem building block years. It starts when you're young, like when you're younger, but where it really tips off is when you're a teenager, because self esteem building happens in these teenage years. That's why it's important for a girl to have extracurricular activities. If she's on some sort of, any extracurricular activities, whether it's a softball team, basketball team, cheerleading, whatever, dance club, any sort of club, chess club, checker, anything that will promote some sort of camaraderie, a sense of belonging, and self esteem building. And when you put your kids and stuff like that, they turn out better than if you just leave them for their own devices. And I know it's harder these days, especially in this recession. There isn't a lot of extracurricular activities like it used to be, especially since, the 2020. But you have to find something. There's always something in your neighborhood or neighborhood community center or something. You have to find something for teenagers to do. because that's why they're having such a hard time. They need a sense of belonging. They need something that they like to do. They need something that they can look forward to. All of those things are self-esteem building tactics. And that's the most important thing that teenage girls need during that 13 to 17 time before they graduate high school. Now I'm going to close this out and I'm going to go and start 2A. So believe me, 2A is something you want to listen to, because in 2A, I'm going to tell you exactly what these girls are doing in school. And this ain't no hearsay or what somebody that I didn't heard. I'm telling you, I'm doing school nursing right now. And I'm telling you, I've been doing it for 3 years now. And I'm telling you what these kids tell me every day, what I witness, what I see, and what I hear. So I'm going to close this one out. Thanks for tuning in, and hold out and look out for 2A. I'm also putting up some other videos in between. I have I forgot what I have coming out. I got a couple more coming out. But I'm working on 2A, and then I'm going to give you 2A, and I'm moving on to 3. We're going to go into early adulthood, and I'm going to be breaking down some other things. All right, gang. Thanks a lot. Please comment and let me know what's going on. Please share some of your experiences as a teenager. And I'm going to go ahead and get this 2A going. All right, guys. Have a great one, and I'll talk to you soon.